Hello, worldies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. I apologize for my brief hiatus. I had a video planned before the most recent holiday, and I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I kind of got whisked away, kind of had a little bit too much fun. Not in a bad way, but that's what we all want. Regardless, I have just been taking care of some things, really preparing for the summer. Like, all winter, I was working on my summer body. So I am, excited for the spring. And obviously, the big elephant in every room right now, I feel like, is, those cases with those old guys doing all that stuff, those files. And it's really interesting. I definitely want to talk about how does something like that happen. A lot of people are so curious. They're saying things like, oh my God, how could something like this be going on for years and nobody does anything about it? Oh my God. All of these things that we as the public are being told about certain people, certain business people and certain, you can't even really call it conspiracy. It's at this point, it's just, real depositions, things like that going on. And I think that a lot of people underestimate the power of our mindsets and the ways that we shape our culture. Culture is not something that is, created for you necessarily, unless you're a bystander in your own life, unless you're like a side character. Then culture is something that you actively create, you co-create with the other people in your community, in your country, the other humans that the words that you speak out and the things that you say. Even with my platform, I have to be careful sometimes and reflect, because anything that you say is shaping culture. It's impacting, what we deem to be acceptable. We have a very high threshold nowadays for seeing things like violence, for seeing people be unalived, seeing, strife and pain and drama and chaos. We have all of these shows, very popular shows, very popular music and things like that, where the message, what they're promoting is a culture of degeneracy, a culture of, the most vilest, most embarrassing things. Think about certain types of trendy, either music scenes like hip hop, rap, or, even a certain night scene somewhere where you're thinking it's ghetto, it's ratchet, it's toxic, it's, maybe you're thinking it's unsafe. Maybe it would be triggering to you. Maybe you feel like it's a violent place. Maybe you think, it's just the dark energy, the culture there, what's, the energy tied to that place and that environment, and the agreements that people are making between each other, like certain things like roles and hierarchies, the things that we participate in. At your job, you usually participate in the social hierarchy of I am an employee, this is the employer. So when it comes to the type of culture that you are contributing to in a workplace, for example, just to explain this point and build upon it, if you're the type of person who frequently engages in insubordination or something like that intentionally, you're trying to basically create a culture where the hierarchy of this is my employer, I'm going to come here, try to be professional and everything, you don't want to that's something that you're not socially agreeing to. I also feel like, if your employer tries to cross your boundaries, demean you, that's what they want their hierarchy to mean. You can decide to not participate in that through setting boundaries, documentation, leaving a job. You can really just leave if you need to. Countless exoticals that I know and myself have left the job if we need to, because that's the culture that's set forth there and you don't agree to it. I'm not socially agreeing to participate in this. Everybody mentally, as they walk around, and I really like to dive deep on this topic, although this video may be short. People who have hierarchy thinking, when you don't really necessarily need to ask somebody, do you believe this? Do you believe that? You can see what somebody believes. You can see the hierarchy the hierarchy thinking potentially in the social agreements that they go out trying to make with other people. Certain things like, for example, body positivity. That's a person who's trying to come to you and make a social agreement with you that, I should be basically rewarded the same way that a person who is fit and disciplined and skinny and, meets the beauty standard. And, it's not just a standard just out of nowhere. They are falling within, general health. They don't have to get winded going up and down the stairs. I've spoken on this before. I think that evolutionarily speaking, I think that we're wired to kind of feel slightly unsafe in a way, unless you're talking about mating. Like, you want a little bit more cushion for the push, and people will say mentally for mating is what that signals. But I'm not trying to just go out and mate with any and everybody. So I think when it comes to not just a mating dynamic, like socially, but a like collective community type of setting, I only want to be around people who look like they understand their fair share. And I don't mean that in the sense of like people don't deserve to be rich, but I definitely mean like if you look like you're greedy with food, if you look like you're gluttonous, I am a bit adverse to it. I think many people are. And I don't think that it's selfish or shallow. I think that it's something in your wiring that says, wow, if it was just me and this person on an island and we ran out of food, they eat everything. So one, even if we have some sort of rations, like we're going to be running out of the food sooner, and it doesn't matter how often people who are ginormous try to say like, oh, I don't eat any food. We all know you eat food, and our brains are clocking that I would not feel safe in a survival energy or like a survival situation where it came to, us having to share resources like, oh, there's only a certain amount of water. Oh, there's only a certain amount of food. Your body is so big and you think it's normal to be that big. So the amount of calories that you think it's normal to consume is a lot different than mine. Than a lot of people who are thin, than a lot of people who are skinny, people who are athletic, people who are fit. We have socially basically agreed that if you're athletic, if you're fit, if you're slim thick, you will have certain benefits and privileges in society and be rewarded based upon the, assumptions that we make about what you do to attain that body, and people who want body positivity to be a thing, they want to come to you and push a new social agreement. They want to say, I deserve what they have without doing the work that they've done. When it comes to So that I've set the scene. This is the concept I'm trying to basically use about these social agreements. Every day around you, especially if you're, consuming media, reading any sort of files, watching any coverage on this thing that's kind of taking the whole world by storm, this thing that everybody is talking about, these EP files, whatever. You can see evidence of why that happened, why that happens all day, every day. If you learn how to develop your discernment to analyze the social agreements that people around you are trying to push. So when you think about the exotical sector in general, when you think about these different pockets online, any of these, you want to call it a think tank, you want to call it what do people call it? An echo chamber, whatever you want to basically call that. It's about culture. It's about social agreements. That's basically what culture is. I've done a whole breakdown on my channel before about culture, because culture is very important to a lot of the conversations that we speak about, whether it's a major culture, as far as like some sort of ethnic culture, a culture based on nationality. Like if you live in a certain country, but you have, a certain ethnicity, you're going to have an experience where you may be participating in the social agreements, or your life, your worldview may have been shaped by the social agreements of being both an exotical and American, or your political affiliation, or your social class, your economic background, your education, things like that. Male-centeredness is like something that kind of took the world by storm. It seems like, I feel like maybe it started in 2025, maybe 2024. There's been the 4B, all of these different things, and they all, all of these movements, all of these thought pockets, they're about people coming together to speak about, they're basically testing out social agreements against each other. So what do I mean by that? If you have a club that you're a part of, maybe it's a chess club, random club. You are going together, and the social agreements of chess club may exist. They may go something like, we're smart, we're nerdy, we're brainy, we're strategic, we are cool, what we do is cool, what we do is valuable. This pastime that we have is worthy of time and study, and the people who are not doing this are missing out. That is what you may socially agree upon. And when it comes to social agreements, you see those through things like humor, through memes. All of these things talk about social agreements. That's what the underlying message of everything basically is. This is why, for example, like on your level up journey, you may have come to a point where you no longer share the same sense of humor with certain people. Your sense of humor is largely shaped by your social agreements. For example, some people, one social agreement that I'm okay with, for example, is like when it comes to comedy, I'm not really the one who's gonna, throw my fist up, start protesting and marching over jokes, I'm very lax. I like very risque type of comedy, dark humor, all that good stuff. I like when comedians push the envelope. I like when they talk about marginalized groups. I like when they make, I shouldn't say this, like I like when they use slurs, but I like when, you should clip that. Like if you're listening to this and you're like an op or like a hater, you should definitely clip that. She definitely said that she likes to hear slurs. Yes, I do. I like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm trolling with that, but I'm saying more so, I like them to, it wouldn't even be funny to me if you didn't like toe the line enough, if you didn't like go out, on a limb far enough and get risque enough to me. But then to some people, the social agreement that I may have, where when it's comedy, it's kind of fun, especially you're a comedian, this is your job. People are paying you to say this stuff. You have, social proof, or you have proof of concept. You have social proof developed where people say, you're a household name, you're a comedian, whatever. Versus somebody like me may feel like, hey, here or there in a certain setting or whatever, I didn't come here for comedy. So maybe I feel like the type of joke that I'm okay with a comedian saying at a comedy show or when I'm pursuing comedy, maybe I socially don't agree to find that same stuff funny when it's a regular person, saying that. And that's okay. Other people may feel differently. They may feel like it doesn't matter if it's a comedian, doesn't matter if it's somebody that I know. I don't want to hear anybody say that. That's never going to be funny to me. Some people feel like, oh, it's fine as long as I don't go to the show. Then that's okay if they're doing it over there. All of these types of things, what I'm saying, I keep bringing it back to social agreements. What's okay? How do we act? When you think about certain time periods, like Bridgerton was just on the part 2 of season 4. when it comes to their etiquette and how they spoke to each other, how they, greeted each other, all of those things, they were all about social agreements. What is okay? What is not okay here in the way that we interact socially? What's okay? What's not okay? Certain things like you may decide I'm not okay with negging. You may decide that, you don't find it funny for people to kind of put you down in a joking way. You may feel like you're not okay with food pushing. You may feel as though you don't want people around you who are going to, try to encourage you to make bad decisions that push you further away from your goals just because, they don't want to face a sense of rejection of you not eating something they've given you, or they don't want to feel a sense of like loneliness or being the odd one out, or maybe they have a fear of missing out on the body that you're going to have. And so like, instead of some people, when it comes to their fear of missing out, their FOMO, it can operate as I'm going to participate with you. I don't want to miss out on being snatched, so I'm not going to eat that. Or, I don't want to miss out on you being snatched, so I'm going to push food onto you. I'm not going to be snatched, so I don't want you to be snatched either, type of thing. Sometimes, we all have to just think deeply about our own whole lives. Even the thoughts that you think in your head, the reactions that you have, the things that, if you're the type of person, maybe you're scrolling and you just, you have thoughts that come to you and you're seeing different videos and stuff, or you are interacting with people, whatever it is, think about, what do I socially agree to? I think a lot of people don't understand the degree to which they are complicit in an entire culture that is basically formed on social agreements that mean that, the things that happened in those depositions or those things online and whatnot, over on those islands and that stuff, boxes of pizza. There are a lot of things that contribute to that. I just have been going down rabbit holes. I'm that type of person who will go on down a rabbit hole if I feel like it's one that it has information I'd like to see. And, it is just, it's just really interesting because words have power and meaning. And I think that I'm the type of person where, I'm too cute to be a social justice warrior. I'm too cute to be doing any of those types of things. When I see something that I don't like in the world, I start thinking about what can I control and what can I not control. And I think that developing your sense of discernment will allow you to get a clearer picture on what you can control and what you can't control. I think that one of the social agreements that you can decide to participate in is that I'm not responsible for other people deciding to be complicit in these crimes, this culture, this entire thing that's going on. I'm the type of person where I typically, like, only if I'm in a space where I feel very safe is when I will kind of give certain opinions on things if other people are, but it's like people are talking about it everywhere. I'm not really speaking in every single room on my views about a situation like this, but I will say that I don't have this, mammy archetype that I'm aspiring to be like, that I'm holding myself to a standard of. I largely feel as though when it comes to other humans and everything outside of the humans that I feel responsible for, the people that I've signed up to influence in a positive way, everybody else is responsible for their own conscious, their own moral, compass and all of that. And over here, I don't even really preach, being moral. But I will say when it comes to like, children and stuff like that, I think it is worthy enough of us all, whether we're exotical or not, whether we're big back or not, whether we're whatever. I think it's definitely worth us giving a thought into like, are there ways in which I'm complicit? And if you can sleep at night with that or not. I will say that I'm the type of woman where when I reflect on my younger days, I was definitely unaware of how I was complicit in certain ways. And now that I'm older, that's something that I want to talk more so about, because many things are connected, not in a conspiracy type of way, but just in the things that you say, the words that you speak, the things that you agree to, what you allow to be okay and not okay. But this is a more serious upload, but what do you think, worldies? Are you going down any rabbit holes? Like, I don't want to, I'm probably not really in the algorithm. I have not been posting or anything lately, but it's still a video I want to get out. I'm so excited to be recording again. And I really love my worldie so much. I miss you guys. I'm so excited for spring and hopefully lots of great things coming. I have lots of awesome videos already recorded that I need to edit. And then I just have topics that I want to think about, just trying to organize my thoughts a little bit on certain things, just because there's a lot going on, a lot that I want to speak on. And I want to think about, what do I want to say? How do I want to say it? So certain things I'm just going to take it piece by piece. But I can't wait till I see you guys next time. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.